Testing. Okay, already on, ready to go.
Told to push on.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for the first listening tour of the school year with the superintendent and school board members. My name is Cherie Johnson. I'm the director of the Office of Strategic Communication and Community Engagement. We also have our new superintendent, Dr. Scott Kisner, as well as our school board chair, Ms. Patricia Healy, our vice chair, Mr. Dwayne McCosker, our school board members, Ms. Pamela Young, Ms. Holly Hazard, Ms. Jamie Decatur, and Dr. Sarah Chase. We host 3 listening tours a year in different parts of the county. It's a chance for parents in the school division to speak to the superintendent and school board members in a town hall setting. The listening tour is part of both the communication and strategic plans. This evening, you have the opportunity to engage directly with school leaders and provide input on issues that impact students and families. It's important for school leaders to have a conversation with parents. Improved community and parent engagement is one of the top priorities for the communication office. Most of you signed in at the door, and we really appreciate it. You also placed your questions on note cards. During the meeting, I will serve as the moderator and read your questions. The superintendent and school board members will answer the questions. You can also continue to fill out the cards with your questions, and the communications team will come by and pick up your questions and bring them up here to me. We will wrap up the event at about 7:50 p.m. and try to answer every question. If we do not answer this evening, we will respond to you within several business days with information. Please be sure to place your name and email address on the card in case we have to follow up with you for an answer. Again, thank you for joining us. And now I would like to introduce the principal of Hampton Oaks Elementary School, Mr. Alan Hicks, and then we'll open it up for questions and discussion. Mr. Hicks?
Good evening, families, and welcome to Hampton Oaks Elementary School. I'm very honored to host this event. Again, I'm Alan Hicks. I'm the principal here. A few things about the building you're in right now. First, at Hampton Oaks, we believe in strong minds, strong hearts, and strong effort. That is our motto here at this school. We believe in a house system, and you can see it by our banners here, that we are a very diverse community, and we trust and work with each other and collaborate on a daily basis. We also have done very many events this year to talk about diversity and community. I encourage everyone here to join us November 15th from 6 to 7:30 for our multicultural night, and also to join us for future events such as tech nights, reading nights, math nights, and also community engagement events when we reach out to the community. I'd also like you to notice the mural when you leave, and that's what we talk about here at Hampton Oaks every day, that everyone is welcome at our school, and we believe in strong minds, strong hearts, and strong effort. And finally, if you're able to come on our multicultural night, we'll present to you our school mural that every child in this building, including staff, has created based around believing that we can learn in reading and math at a high level and have high expectations for all. So again, I'm very honored to host this event tonight. Hampton Oaks is a very special place, and I truly love what I do every day. I love the staff that I work with every day, the teachers that educate our children, and especially our Stafford school community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks, and thank you for allowing us to have our listening tour here tonight. All right. Well, I already have a few cards here, folks that signed up right at the beginning of registration there. Okay, so we'll start with the first question. Garrisonville Elementary School is rated a 3, but when we moved to Stafford, it was an 8. What determines the rating?
You want me to take because I am brand new. First of all, school systems don't rate the schools. State Department of Education does not rate the schools. I think the rating that they might be speaking to is off a website called Great Schools, which is a rating that is often determined by the feedback on a survey that consumers, it could be parents, it could be others, and it fluctuates greatly, obviously, depending on how many people have rated that school. So if it's only 5 people, one number could change it greatly. So, so it's not determined by the school system or the Department of Education.
Okay. And you know what, Dr. Kistner, it's your first listening tour, and some of these new parents might be seeing you for the first time. Do you want to start with a little introduction, tell a little bit about yourself and what
Okay.
brought you to Stafford County Public Schools?
Was it great heart, great minds? Okay, I'm very excited. In my 47th day. I'm not counting, but I am. And I've had a chance to visit every one of our schools in Stafford. And I must tell you, and I thank you, your children, regardless if it's preschool or grade 12, I've met some really amazing young people. So as parents sitting here, when your children are doing well, you should take the compliment, because if your children are not doing well, we're going to give you that feedback also. And if you have Twitter, I have to do it, because I finally broke 1,000 on Twitter, so I'm so excited. It took me 4 years. So every time I visit a school, I take pictures of what I see, and I put it on Twitter. So if you ever want to know what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing. So just real quickly about me, I'm a father of 3 daughters, all graduated public education. One lives in Richmond. She's an attorney. One's in Arlington. She's a teacher. And our youngest daughter is finishing a teacher education program, and she's going to be a teacher come January. I have a wife. I should probably start off with that. It's because you will tell if you see her that I did start off with that. Anyway, she was an educator for many years, and now she's finishing up a job overseeing the Boys and Girls Club in the Shenandoah Valley. Real quickly, not to bore you, I started my career in education working with children with disabilities. Then I was a school psychologist. I was a director of special ed and psychological services, an assistant superintendent of instruction, and the last 20 years I've been a superintendent of schools. So I feel honored to be part of the Stafford community, and I look forward to tonight. And if you ever want to give me some ideas or give me some comments, good or not so good, you could always just call me or email me or put it on Twitter. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kistner. All right, moving on to our next question. As a parent, I have a concern in regards to funding. Teachers and school bus drivers seem to be highly underpaid. With that said, I'm concerned that we will lose good quality teachers and not gain proper and skilled bus drivers.
I could start. I'm Pamela Young. I'm the Garrisonville school board member, and I was going to defer to Dr. Kistner anyway. But we are planning. We have a plan in place, and we're trying to work on a strategic plan. But Dr. Kistner has some more information. It's probably going to be the Dr. Kistner show tonight.
So I feel like I'm on a game show. Could you repeat the question?
You want me to-
Yeah, I'm doing
They want us to
4,000.
come up with more money to pay teachers and bus drivers.
yes.
That's the
Yeah,
rewrite.
so I don't think anybody up
We
here.
wanted to do it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody up here will disagree with that question. So, as you know, we're just in the early stages of putting our budget together. What will take place is the school board, if you're not familiar with, they adopted some budget goals. One of the budget goals was clear to have attractive salaries, not only to make sure we get the best talent, but also that we keep the best talent, and we develop talent once we have them in Stafford. In January, I will officially present a school budget proposed school budget to the Stafford School Board. They will go through a process of determining what they would like to see as the final budget, and then obviously, I guess in March or sometime, present it to the Board of Supervisors. So I do think what you're going to see there, without giving a number, because we haven't gone that far, that there will be a great emphasis to give salary increases to all our staff members.
If I could just add to that, and as much as we are concerned certainly about Stafford. Something that everybody should keep in mind is if you look at Virginia and how Virginia ranks nationally, this is in our legislative priorities. We are about almost $4,000 off the national average. So as much as I want you all to concentrate on us, and we are actually off the Virginia average about $3,000 to $4,000 as well. I would just encourage you also to reach out to your state representatives, because Virginia in general should not be, as a Commonwealth, $4,000 to $5,000 off the national average. Now, averages, I'm not the math person, that's not maybe the best, but it is something that you can honestly say, we should not, the Commonwealth of Virginia, I didn't grow up here, but I came to school here and never left, so we shouldn't be that far off. So as much as concentrate on us and our funding body, but there's also some help I believe we should be getting from our Virginia side, and there has been many studies, many articles recently about we're falling behind. And so also send those letters to your state representatives to say, we need to be competitive nationally, because at least here in Stafford and in Virginia, there are not enough teachers coming out of Virginia schools for us to hire. So we have to go elsewhere. Well, if you go elsewhere and they're saying, well, your salary is $4,000 less than that, we're not even going to attract from outside of the Commonwealth. And I know Dr. Kisner's worked some on that, but I think we aren't growing our own within Virginia to be able to hire, so we have to be able to be competitive nationally. So certainly send us your emails, but I'm just saying there's maybe some other people you could send to as well.
And I'd just like to add one more thing, because I add it every time we discuss this. I said it before, and I need to make sure I keep saying it. When it comes time for budget approval over at the Board of Supervisors, it's really important that we get over there and advocate for the things that are important in our budget that you guys want to see in there, because so often I hear from people that they didn't hear from their constituents, so it must not be important to them. And I know that's the furthest thing from the truth. So when it comes time, let's make sure we get over there and really advocate for the things we want to see in this budget.
This is my first time hearing my apologies. When you're talking about our representatives, at what level is going to that meeting so that we know who to send those requests to?
Well, so when I say that, I mean, just like you're here this evening, let's get out to our Board of Supervisors meetings in Stafford County and let them know, because when we, as school board members, send our budget over to them for approval. So it's really important to go, and you can go over there and speak for 3 minutes and let them know all of the things, really countywide, not just in the school's budget, but they're over there and they're listening, and when they hear it straight from you, it means that it's important, so.
Can I piggyback on what Jamie is saying? Your representative, your Board of Supervisors, depending on which district you live in, we get a lot of emails from our constituents. I get emails, I answer my emails at night, and so I enjoy getting emails because I get to find out what is going on and what is important to my parents and my constituents. So you could certainly write them some emails and say, hey, bus drivers need more money, teachers need more money. And when the meetings, like Jamie said, when the meetings happen, certainly we'll try to let you all know when it is, but we would love for you all to be there and help us out, so.
Okay. And the next question, what has SCPS done to improve safety in terms of active shooter training and things to keep our children safe?
Again, it's always safe for me to answer it because I'm new. So if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, although I think I saw Mr. Martin here.
Yeah.
So our school system, so first of all, let you know that the state has very clear requirements that every school system go through a series of trainings, okay? And that obviously includes Stafford County Public Schools. So we have worked with our staff, everything from active shooter training to intruder training to what we call threat assessments. We hope we don't have to activate when somebody wants to harm us. So we could work with our young people to anticipate somebody who's at risk. So we've gone through a training with our staff on threat assessment. To say that, though, in our buildings, as you hopefully know if you visit our buildings, we have pretty clear procedure that you have to be identified when you come in the building. The thing that I would just tell you from experience, you could do a lot of these things. This is not an either or. You got to do many things. But probably the most important thing that we need to do is make sure we know our children and we know our families. And that if a child is struggling, a parent feels comfortable calling their school principal or school counselor and say, hey, can we meet? I want to discuss something about my child in a way that you feel we're being supportive. And if a student is struggling, that they also feel like they will not be ostracized for coming forward to seek some support. What I ask our principals to do is to make sure our staff is visible throughout the building grounds. So when I visit schools, I always keeping kind of like a mental checklist. Do I see teachers in the hallway during during period changes? Do I see staff out in the bus area? Those are really very important things, okay? I'll make this comment, which is really a comment that people often have a difficult time accepting, especially right after a terrible incident that happens. Schools still remain the safest place for young people to be, okay? They remain the safest place for young people to be. And we want schools to remain a place that does not look like, the other thing I didn't tell you about my resume, I've had opportunities to teach at prisons, and I serve on the governor appointed me, Governor McCullough appointed me to the Juvenile Justice Board. So I have spent many time with young people who made bad choices. And often they made bad choices because they didn't have an adult there to help them maybe make a better choice. So we are constantly evaluating, reviewing our safety procedures, and I'll just end it with this. We are going to, most likely will be early winter, but it could be late fall, have a safety audit for our school system just to make sure we are really following the right practices and procedures. And we're in the process of working to get a professional group to help us through that process.
I'll add one.
I just wanted to add that we're in a step in the right direction, but it's also about mental health and having counselors in the school systems, that the counselors are able to do their job and not doing other things than trying to understand their students, getting to know their students, and knowing if there is a risk involved. And piggybacking on what Dr. Kisner stated about getting to know the children, I think parents need to feel comfortable to come to their teachers or to their principals and have that conversation that they think that something is wrong with their child, because we as parents, we know when our children are having issues or problems. So we are the first person to identify those issues and make sure that the child gets help before it's too late.
Another thing I would just add is that, I don't know if in the wake of Parkland, the board did come together and decided that we want to be very proactive. And when we made that kind of known, Sheriff Decatur was very quick to jump on board. They created a safety task force. I've been to a few of those meetings. In the safety task force, there are several principals and administrators from the county. They get together and they talk with the deputies in our county. They're making plans and processes that they're not going to share with anybody because it's nobody else's business what they're doing to make sure our kids are safe. Well, it is, but you know what I mean. Anyways, so they created the safety task force, and they've been working really closely with our safety people, the sheriff's department, and making sure that they've got a lot of things, protocols in place for our babies.
And just one thing with facilities, for any of you who've been around many of our schools, I will not say all, but over the last several years, we have been trying to make sure that the entryways to all of our schools have adequate ways to get in, that then the person stays trapped in there if there is an issue. We have really been working on that because it's the entry many times to the buildings. And having spoken with colleagues from across the state, talking about, you know, many of our buildings already have that in these buzz-in systems and stuff. That is not the norm across. A lot of school systems are in catch-up mode to deal with those entrances to our buildings. And I will have to say, as a shout out to our construction facilities folks, that was something we have been working on for 5 to 6 years. And we may not quite be done, but it was something we were ahead before many of these tragedies have caused other areas to look at those entryways. So sometimes I know it may be frustrating, but remember, it is always for the safety of your kids. I'll give the public service announcement. I know many times we want to hold the door. Please, we really are trying to make sure the best way that you all are as much part of the solution and keeping your eyes on things. It's tempting, but like I said, let's button it down.
I just had one more thing to add. There was a 911 tip line. I'm not sure what the status is. I don't know if Greg Martin or Dr. Kisner knows a little bit more about it, but the only concern I had with that tip line is that, parents and students to use it, but to be cautious about how we use that tip line and not just identify individuals that we don't like or individuals that we appear to be, because of, as you know, the things that we hear on the radio and on TV, that individuals are being called and that they don't belong. And so we just need to be careful with that's concerned. Before we roll it out, we need to test it, make sure that parents and students or whoever use that know what the guidelines are. And, yeah.
Yeah, I just touch real quickly. So the tip line is activated. We have had some people who have shared some information with us. In most cases, to be honest with you, it's something that could have been resolved by the parent is calling the school. A lot of it's a misunderstanding, or they heard something second or third hand. But there has been one or two, to be truthful with you, where we have been able to work with young people so they don't, so we can help them heal. It was brought to our attention that maybe they were talking about something that was dangerous to themselves or others, and we were able to intervene. And so I would say right now it's too early to let you know if this is. I don't think it could hurt. I think the comment about using it for the right reasons. This should not be used for a reason like, I don't like my child's teacher, but I don't want you to know who I am, so let me tell you what they're doing. We actually had one of those. And even though it's anonymous, I just want to let you know this. If we have to, because, and it sounds silly, but if there's something that somebody puts up there that's very serious and we need to know more than what you might be sharing, then we do have a way of to find out who you are, and we want that only because you just can't give us half the story and not the whole story. Okay.
Okay, all right. The next question we actually have 2 questions about Destination Imagination. So, funding was cut off this year for safety reasons. Please tell the real reason. And then someone said, can you please explain the change in Destination Imagination team funding?
Okay, all right. I've really been here for 3 years. Okay, so Destination Imagination, the funding was discontinued. Let me first say, and I'll just be brutally honest, it happened over the summer, I believe, and we it appears that we did not communicate this effectively for those who we're expecting that Destination Imagination would continue. The safety question, I think, needs to be explored more. The safety question, just to be how I understand it, and I'm not sure I agree with this, so I just want to make that clear too. A lot of times, so I'm a father of a daughter who was in Destination Imagination and went to nationals, so I'm a little biased in this. So I personally think it's a great program. And so the concern was that some of the practicing takes place in people's homes, and that maybe something bad will happen in that person's home. You know, I don't want to be a leader that we're going to always look for the worst scenario, okay? So, because my daughter's team always practices in somebody's home, and you know, kids do homework at other people's homes. They do projects at other people's homes. So I'm not sure I'm personally embracing that's a safety risk, okay? I think the issue really comes down on the funding part about, we have a lot of programs. We have a lot of extracurricular type programs. And how do we make a determination to support one program and tell other programs we're not able to support it? So this was the only reason I know something about it, because a teacher brought this, a parent teacher brought this to my attention last week, and we're in the process, I'm in the process of trying to understand it better, and so I could communicate to the people who have brought it to my attention why the funding was discontinued, and then work with the school board if they see benefit to put this money back in the budget. I think it was about $30,000, if I remember. I could be off on that part. Yeah. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it is true that the Destination Imagination money was discontinued this year. I believe, I'm talking to a couple of people, that the communication somehow was not clearly articulated to those that were directly impacted. And the safety issue, from the documents that I have seen, were pertaining to having children in locations where we have not gone through a background check. The other thing I would just quickly add, I think our schools, so you guys pay for the schools, the taxpayers pay for the schools. Most of the taxpayers don't have children in our schools. These schools should be open. So I'm not sure why, if Destination Imagination asked to use these facilities, why we would turn them down, okay? That's just how I feel. I'm not speaking for the board. I'm speaking as a superintendent who might try to influence the board, but this is by no means a policy statement. But I've always, everywhere I've worked as superintendent, I just felt like the schools belong to the community, and it's hard to find space in any community, and we should try to open up the schools and at least do it at cost neutral. So, you know, if we have to pay for custodians or things, services like that, we would partner with whatever group wants it, so it could be, not to make any money, but just to be cost neutral.
And I'd like to add a little something, because I had children involved with activities in Stafford County Public Schools for a number of years. And a couple of those programs are Math Counts and National History Day. And I had a child go to the state competition 4 times and the national competition twice. And Stafford County Public Schools provided no funds for that whatsoever. And similarly for Math Counts, I coached the team for 9 years. And the school system paid the competition fee, but they provided no transportation to that competition or anything else. So I think we do have to be responsible in looking at how do we fund these things. And if we don't have money for everything, then we may have to be making some difficult choices. So I just give a little bit of that perspective as well.
I'm going to jump in real quick. So I have kids in DI. I have 4 kids. 2 are in college, and then 2 are in DI now, and 11 and 12-year-olds. So yeah, that's how it was explained to us, was, hey, listen, we're paying $30,000 a year, and we're supporting the kids going to strangers' houses, right? And so that's kind of not good. So But we do have to kind of, as a board, get around the idea, and I'm glad Dr. Kisner is kind of seeing it the way, I think the schools should be open, and at least, the principals can do their job and take care of the teachers that support it too, because a lot of teachers support the DI program. Each year, there's a couple of hundred kids from across the county that are at the DI program up at North Stafford Middle School every year, and sometimes it's, and the same thing goes for Perch. We have to balance our funding across programs and be fair. However, I'm glad to see that we can, there's more ways to take care of employees that put some time into these programs than just giving them money. So you can get a couple hours off, you can do a lot of things, right? So I hope we get the word out officially about this DI program, what we're going to do with it and what our way forward is, and maybe that's just something I'll just put on the, I'll just get it on the agenda item, and we'll get some work done, right? And then we'll take care of it.
Okay. The next question, what is required for the school board to accept an online petition to stop the school year starting prior to Labor Day for 2019? What reason is Stafford County using for applying for the required waiver?
This one I will allow somebody else to answer.
So let me say, I didn't vote for this, okay, and I was pretty vocal about it. However, the board came to a decision with input from the community, as Ms. Hazard said. There was a very vocal community that really wanted the extended school, and so we listened to both sides. Like I said, just because I didn't agree with it doesn't, and I didn't vote for it, but the board made a decision, and on the vote, when we had all the data in front of us, and then we moved forward with that. As far as your online, I welcome. I wouldn't mind another shot at the vote, but that's me. But as far as you guys coming online and doing what you got to do as a community, keep doing it, right? So probably didn't answer your question, but that's my feeling. So.
But we know what you voted for.
Yes. So I would just caution in terms of online petitions, though, to change the calendar in October for next September. One of the reasons we plan the calendar in advance is because people do plan their vacations, people do make arrangements. And so an online petition from one group of people might not be supported by another group of people. And so I can tell you as a teacher myself, I don't change my syllabus after I set it in place, because it just causes a whole heck of a lot of annoyance by my students if I'm changing the date of the final exam or I'm changing the date that their paper is due. So I'm not a real fan of changing calendars after we've sort of given people notice.
Before we leave the calendar, were you about to say something?
Yeah, very, very short. I was just getting ready to say I did vote for it. There's 50% that's going to be for it, and 50% is going to be against it. I believe it's in the best interest of the kids to have more time. If you plan on doing some online or whatever it is, it's going to be for 2021, like Sarah said, because we're not changing that right now. And Spotsylvania is just coming behind us right now because the whole area has changed the calendar. And Spotsylvania just said to me the other day, I met with one of the board members, and they said, oh, now it's our turn. So the whole area is going to have the same calendar.
So yesterday, it was brought to my attention that our staff was a little concerned that people might not be aware that we changed the spring break Easter vacation for this year. So I don't know how we changed it, but whatever we did, it's different than we've done before. So I would encourage you to look at the school calendar, which is, of course, on our website, so you know when we're going to be off for the spring Easter break.
With respect to the question on the waiver, I doubt that anybody sitting up here has that answer, but I would ask Dr. Kisner to have that answer posted on the website. Any questions that we respond to that we're either the ones we respond to after this is over, or questions that we have to get back to them on, that there's somehow we could post it on the website under the listening tour category or something, so we can get that answer for you. But I know I don't have that answer, and I don't think anyone else up here has that either. I was on the losing side along with Mr. McOsker.
It's not a losing side. We're all on the same team.
Well, we are now, but
Okay, and the next question, will SCPS reconsider changing the attendance policy regarding taking final exams? The current policy forces students to come to school sick.
Yeah, I could touch on it. This is good. I feel like I wrote these questions because I know some of the answers. Yeah, we are actually right now, the 5 high school principals submitted some concerns to me, and I've shared it with staff. And just if you're not familiar what takes place right now, and again, I'm just going to share how I feel. When you get to know me, I'm not a good person to play poker against because I just share. I'm pretty transparent. So how I understand the current system is that children who have not have had a number of days out and are exempt from the final. I don't know what the number is, if you miss less than a certain amount of days. So that's one group, and then students that have maintained good grades, and I can't share with you how we define good grades. They're also exempt. So I have a problem on it for a couple of reasons. One that was just mentioned, I surely don't want sick kids to come to school and get other kids sick so they can miss a final. That makes no sense to me. And B, I don't like finals to be used as a punishment. And let's not kid yourself. You're 17, 18 years old. There's no other way you're looking at this. I'm here and everybody else is not here because I either missed school too much or I didn't get good grades. So, and then there is a lot of time of lost instruction because we prepare for the finals and a group of children do not come to school during final week. So I think it just needs to be looked at and go back to what the purpose of assessment is. Now, what I am supportive of, and as I shared with our staff just the other day, is that learning, if I had all of us line up against that wall and say, let's walk and run to that wall, somebody's going to get there first and somebody's going to get there last, but I believe we're all going to get there. So we need to have a system in place where some students, they may need some additional time to demonstrate their proficiency, okay? And that I'm all in to explore how we make that happen. So I'm not stating a final policy, but it's definitely under exploration, discussion, and most likely because we're already in the school year and things are prepared, we're really talking for the 19-20 school year, not the 18-19 school year.
Okay. The next question. Will transgender students be allowed to use the locker room as well as try out and play with teams of the gender they identify with?
Okay, so we are working on a couple things simultaneously. One, working with the community and working with people who are either have developed policies, other school systems, or working with different attorneys that have experience in advising school boards on policies as it relates to transgender children. Absent of that, and I think something's going to happen faster than I think most people are expecting. If you read what I said in the newspaper and you heard me on TV, I shared exactly how I feel. And I feel that transgender children should go to the bathroom that they identify with, and I also believe the locker rooms issue could easily be addressed, also to give protections and make sure everybody's treated with dignity. So what I'm just sharing with you is that that's how most school systems operate, is that the family and the school come to an agreement. And I did say this at the board meeting, and I think it might have maybe been misunderstood, at least from one parent. Policies are good to a point, because if you make something a blanket rule, you as a parent may disagree for your child, that this is in the best interest. And another parent may agree with the policy. So I have put I put time in it, and we'll be putting more time in it, and I believe I will be presenting to the school board in the very near future some policies and some things for them to consider in this area.
Okay. Our next question. What is being done about the transportation issues in the late buses?
Okay, so there's no question, and I just want to I hope this doesn't come across making an excuse. Sometimes I like to put things in perspective. We have 220 to 230 buses on the roads every day, and we're transporting about 14,000 children. So I just want to make sure we get some context to us. At the same time, we definitely have some buses that are, so yesterday I was at, where was I yesterday? 2 days ago yesterday, I was at Gale Middle School. And 2 buses get there at 3:30. And the staff out there said, the buses are running late. They're supposed to be here at 3:15. So I asked the question, do they come 3:30? How often do they come 3:30? They said, no, every day they come 3:30. So I said, wait a minute, maybe the new time is 3:30, okay? Maybe we need to stop saying these buses are coming at 3:15, because we have learned after 75 days, the buses are coming at, 45 days, the buses are coming at 3:30. So some of it is, I think, we're adjusting, as you know, driving anywhere in Stafford, especially even on this side of town, there's just so much construction. So what you think, the time you think you're getting somewhere, you're not necessarily getting there at that time. The other thing which can't be dismissed, you heard it, we are short a lot of bus drivers. We are short a lot of bus drivers, and this is where the first question, or the second question that was asked, we see the immediate impact. Our salaries for bus drivers, so we need to start, and the board knows this, we need to look at Prince William County and Spotsylvania County. That's our competitive market. And I have met bus drivers who live in Stafford who are driving in Prince William County. They're making $3 and more, a change more than we are hourly, okay? So it's a combination of, we have to adjust our thinking that some buses that are running late, if they're running late every day, that's the new time, okay? You know, growing up in New York, I knew about buses and subways, and I stopped using the word late. This is when the bus came, this is when the bus came. The other thing is, and the board Tuesday night, this Tuesday night, and I think Barry's there. Is he there?
Yeah, he's right here.
So stand up for a second, Barry. This is the greatest guy I've ever worked with. I've been doing this a long time. He leads our transportation system. And he gets to work really early and leaves very late. And that's the other thing I would ask you to think as parents. And believe me, I'm telling you, we're far from perfect. But we're getting everybody home safe, and we're picking you up safe, okay? So he's trying to manage the shortage of bus drivers, which means he, along with his staff, are literally driving buses. They're driving buses in the morning when we're short. Not only are we short-staffed, then we have staff who get sick or don't, whatever. So it is a real issue. And the board has directed me to come up with some strategies to make it more attractive for drivers to want to work in Stafford, and also to keep our drivers. And this Tuesday night at the board meeting, we're going to present our first recommendations for the school board to consider.
I just wanted to add, yes, we're short of bus drivers, so there's openings, everyone, all right? In addition to that, I think something that we have not taken into consideration is that the HOV has moved down to this exit. And so everybody's getting off here, taking the back road, which is Mine Road through Austin Ridge, brings a lot of traffic our way. From Quantico, they take that back road over by Park Ridge, brings a lot of traffic our way. So that is also holding up a lot of people and a lot of the buses. stood right there at Park Ridge because the parents told me it's a mess. So I went to look at it. I stood right there in that corner, and it was a mess. It was a backup because there's a lot of cars coming off the exit. They don't live here, not that they're not. I mean, if they spend some money while they're here, that's fine. But they're using this as a cut-through, and that's where we find that this is not going to change anytime soon unless we open up that HOV down to Richmond.
If I could just add one thing with regarding to communication. One of the hardest things is, of course, when there is some kind of construction or backup or whatever it might be in Stafford, please make sure that you are on those call and distribution lists. I can't speak to Cherie, and her team deal very much with that, but we really do try and get out information saying, wow, route run's closed again, or some back road, there's an accident. That's going to impact routes. There's just no way around that. So make sure that you are aware by either talking to your individual school, I know they'll direct you the right way, to be on those ability to receive that information in a timely manner, because as you know, if you drive here, you could be, it looks great on your GPS, it's green. The moment you merge onto whatever that road is, it goes red. So, you know, we're all sort of dealing with that. The My Bus Stop, right, Cherie, I'm going to say it right. If you are not aware of that app, make sure that you're aware of that. That's also a way to track. I'm going to turn that over to the experts. But make sure, like I said, stuff comes up every day in a school system, and transportation for all of us is difficult, but just make sure, if you can, that you're able to receive those, especially if you aren't even able to get home, to get to a bus stop to receive your child, because you may be the one that's backed up, not just the bus. So.
Very good
And
point.
I
Or
have to-
follow Dr. Kisner.
Right, and I
on
had
Twitter.
I have to apologize, though, about this issue. I use Mine Road as a cut-through, thanks.
Oh, you're one of those. I'm going to get you.
Okay. Barry, it is My Stop, My Bus. Okay.
The app PT My Stop, I think it's called.
Got it.
Currently, we have 8,764 people using it, and at least about 10,000 who can sign up and use it.
Okay.
I don't memorize those numbers, I just have to look today.
Thank you, Barry. Okay.
Cherie, could you put that on the website as well, that
Yes,
information?
absolutely.
Not just the people that were here, but people that may be following up on
We
it.
can put that
Thank you.
on there where they can download it, sure thing. The next question,
Can we also thank the Boy Scouts?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the
for
Boy
coming in?
Scouts.
Thank
coming
you.
out. Make sure you get credit for citizenship in the community and communications, maybe even, so. It's a hard merit badges.
the next question is, I am interested in the discussions within the county with respect to school attendance and redistricting for elementary, middle, and high schools. Where can I view the proposals?
Okay. So you know, if you go on the school system website and then you go to the school board link, right now, I think you're familiar that we're in the early stages of the elementary redistricting. The school board Tuesday night will approve a consulting firm that will help us through the redistricting. But if you go to the school board link, we're trying to put all our documents on that. It actually says redistricting. So you could obviously watch the school board meeting. You could come to the school board meeting. And I think you know, if you're not that familiar, you could go to the school board site on the website, and you could watch school board meetings. You know, you could watch old school board meetings, okay? So, so for this year, all 17 elementary schools will be evaluated for redistricting. And the, what's the timeline that we're hoping to make?
This spring?
Not soon
Yes,
enough.
sir.
We have to do it in time to set bus schedules and get everything set up, because we do have a very early start next year.
And I just wanted to also mention, if you aren't already aware of this, that we we're in the process of selecting a contractor or consultant to come up with redistricting plans for us, because we really want to try to have it be as objective as possible. We know it's going to be hard, redistricting 17 schools, and we want it to be as unbiased as we can make it be.
Yeah, and it's redistricting for elementary school. I just wanted to make sure. But Dr. Kisner has experience, so that's great. But I just wanted to make sure that, we get to neighborhood schools as close as possible as we want. I know my kids went through Hampton Oaks here, and they're all grown, but we have kids that pass a school to come to this school. We want to make sure that they could go to the school that's closest to them, be it Moncure, which is a new school, and our kids, our parents come back to our school here, and that we could move forward and have space and room for the kids that are in this area. And if we can't accommodate those, we will move to the next school as close as possible. But as Dr. Chase said, we want to make sure that it's objective and that we get this consultant in here and help us. And with Dr. Kisner and the rest of the school board, we'll do the best job we can and make sure that parents and the community is happy with our job, our work.
Okay, I would just like to add that one of the primary reasons behind the redistricting is the fact that we are going to acquire a school up at Shelton Shop Road and Garrisonville Road. It was previously the Fredericksburg Christian School. It will have a new name to be determined. But by the acquisition of that school, we are able to free up over 20 classrooms in our elementary schools. So it's going to give us approximately 473 seats in our elementary schools, and that's scattered throughout the whole district. So that is one of the reasons that we are able to look at a redistricting. And also, I'm sure you're all aware that some of our schools are busting at the seams. I mean, they are either at or above capacity, while we have other schools that are not filled. And part of that reason is because our neighborhoods change. In some of our neighborhoods, the families have stayed in the homes, but the children have graduated from school. So the families are there, but they're not, no school children. Whereas in other neighborhoods, particularly where we're, we have families moving in, there's more children. So the school system really has no say into where the children come from. We just, will educate whoever is there. But this will give us an opportunity with the help of a consultant to try to even things out, so we don't have schools that are, over, crowded, and others that have, a significant capacity.
Okay. And our next question, why is my child going to Ferry Farm when we live off of Route 17, 22 minutes away? We are near 3 closer schools. My kids are not getting home until 5 p.m. Why do we not have AC on the bus?
What I would recommend for the author of that question, to call me or email me, and so we could I could get you the answer without, I don't want to just have a dialogue with you, so we could help explain it. And so if you just go on our website, again, just you go on the first page, you'll see my email and phone number, and we'll address that question right away.
Okay.
Okay. Or we're going to respond even faster
Or you
than
can
that.
talk to the historian on the board.
Yeah.
Many years ago, when we started the renovations of the elementary school, Falmouth was the first elementary school. Then we did, was it Stafford L, and Grafton was next. Ferry Farms was going to get a rebuild along with Moncure, but now that's going to be renovated instead. But when we were doing the redistricting, the renovations at Falmouth, there wasn't room for new students there. And at that time, there was a need to move students. I think that it was a Rocky Run was full. We had to move students around, and Ferry Farms had space in it. So the original intention was that the students were going to go to Ferry Farms for not a permanent set, but until there was, room made up available at Falmouth. Well, what happened is, by the time the renovation got done at Falmouth, the students went back in, there wasn't room. So this is an opportunity with this redistricting to make some of those, I'll call it corrections. Now, hopefully that's something that the consultants will be looking at. And as Ms. Young noted, one of the prime criteria, there's a list of 17 criteria that we use in the, or maybe more than 17, but it's a pretty long list. In redistricting in the past has been that the children are in the schools closest to their home. And that's certainly something that I think is important. Well, I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, but it's definitely important to me.
Okay. And the next question, what is SCPS doing to minimize class sizes?
So there's a lot of things. The redistricting is one approach. The school board has been working on what's called a capital improvement plan. The capital improvement plan looks at a few things. One of them is new schools. They are looking at, well, they approved at the last board meeting to, on their priority list, a 6th high school and an 18th elementary school. They will be addressing next Tuesday some renovations to some of our existing schools, which may also offer more class space. The other thing that, everything is tied, so other thing that's impacting class size, especially at the secondary level, and especially in the areas of math and some other subjects, are, it's difficult. There's a teacher shortage. We all need to accept that. I was with the Dean of the School of Education of George Mason last week, and this year, their teacher education programs have 20 less entering freshmen than they did the year prior. And I know at JMU that's absolutely true too. I actually think it's higher than 20%. So when we are unable to employ certified credentialed staff, then we have to make a decision. And often the decision is we don't want to deny children that class. And so we put more children in a class that we would prefer to put in. That's one factor. The other factor, which you know better than I do, is that we're growing. We're growing at a pretty good rate. And what was the middle school we mentioned at the meeting today that went up 60, 70 more kids?
Drew Middle School.
Drew Middle School than what we projected. So I think it's a combination of we need more space. That's why the Fredericksburg, the Christian school is going to open up, free up classrooms. We're taking the preschool classrooms out. And then Montcure is going to be replaced, and that will have more space, more classrooms. So there's a lot of things, and this is where advocacy is important, because everything I'm mentioning is not cheap. Okay, so as we want to raise salaries for staff and maybe strengthen our programs and technology, we also need these capital plans. And so it's the school board and the superintendent will obviously advocate often and loudly, but it really is very helpful to have parents and other community members also doing the same thing. So the class sizes, the school board, I know this is a fact because I've been hearing these conversations for many weeks now. It's completely committed to lowering the class sizes when possible. And sometimes it's not possible just because we don't have the space or we don't have the teachers we need to teach, even if we had the space.
And can I just say, one of the interesting problems that our central office staff has is handing out teachers to schools. And you don't always know how many students are actually going to show up in the building in the first week or two of school. And so they do the best that they can, But when suddenly one school has 60 more students than expected, and another school has maybe 30 students less than expected, it can be a challenge to move personnel around in order to fix that problem, and it's not always easy to do. And I know they really work very hard to try to minimize that problem.
I just also wanted to add that having small class sizes is everything that everybody wants, but it's a good problem to have because there are areas in Virginia that are closing schools because they don't have enough children to occupy those classes. So we have a good problem. People want to move to Stafford. Yes, I remember when I moved, I didn't want anybody else moving in after me. This is it. We're cutting off everything and everybody. No more movement. But it can't be like that. Everybody wants to move here, good schools, right? And, you buy your home and you want to raise your children here. So we have to give everybody that opportunity. But we will do what we can with redistricting. Moncur is coming. It has 200 more seats, right? And so there will be room in most of the schools that we're working with in this area and across all the elementary schools. So we're looking forward to working with Dr. Kisner and the consultant and making sure that we do our best to have it as neighborhood schools as possible. But we know we're in a growing county, and we need to understand that that's possible, that we can't have smaller class sizes because it's going to grow. So.
If I could add probably a different perspective, I think that class size is very important, and I think it's very important to our teachers, because I think that's a voice we need to understand. I think there is an interplay, as Dr. Kisner said. We have a lot of things that are important, and how do we balance that? Are we providing raises and higher class size? It's all going to be a balance. We can always go and ask for everything again, as Dr. Kisner alluded to. We need advocacy. But I'll give you a different perspective in terms of, I think we have to look holistically at our schools. I believe that our schools are much more than the class size in each individual classroom. I think we need to be looking at our schools and saying, are we offering the right things in our schools? Some of the schools, it's very easy to close down not easy, but take out computer labs because we need it for class size. When my students went to Margaret Brent, we had a science lab, or there was a science space. I can't even tell you how long that's been gone. So there's other spaces. We also need other spaces for our focus teachers, our special education, our speech, all those things. That I believe that class size is part of what we need to be looking at, but I believe holistically we need to say in our schools, are we having the things that are meeting kids' needs on top of the class size? Because the classroom itself is critical, and I guess I'm really more speaking, I will say, probably at the elementary level, because there are other spaces that I believe we as a society and should be providing that need to be awesome spaces. I don't want to see people having to do their pull-out spaces in a cafeteria. I don't want to see people doing pull-out spaces. We need to make sure we're meeting the whole needs, and that may be looking at what do our buildings need to look like. And maybe, I know when we built the new Moncur, or I guess as we're building the new Moncur, there was a lot of thought put into what should we have in our elementary schools, and there was a real recognition of they don't look like what I went to, probably not even what maybe my kids went to. And I just think we have to look at that as well, and class size is a piece of it, but I hope we don't only focus on that piece, because I truly believe we may be missing some things or losing some things by having to use every space for our classrooms, which to me goes to why elementary 18 may be important, because we want to be doing what's best for our kids in every building.
Just real quick, to get back to the thanks. So class sizes. So a couple of years ago, the board came up with class size standards, which was like new. I mean, the county hadn't thought of that, I guess, right? And so class size standards, we came up with that. Now that costs money, that we have standards that are online and are posted for elementary school, and other positions. And we made a conscious decision as a board to say, hey, listen, we're not going to take any more students than this in elementary school. You know, that's where we started. And by doing that across, I don't know, a couple of hundred classrooms, 1,000 classrooms maybe across the elementary 17 schools, you know, that cost a bunch of money, and we put that in there. We have a class size, so every board member on this board right now, I know how much, I know how many kids are in your fourth grade class right now in my bag, in every single class. So the averages are about 20, 22 across for the elementary school, which is not great. We have some at 19 and some at 23, but that'll be posted online. Yeah, that's a lot, but that'll be posted online for everyone. That'll be posted on, yeah, that'll be posted online on Tuesday. So it's for you all to see and have a view on. So that's one part. I think where we're right now, and we still have to focus on elementary school, but right now we're having a pretty big problem in middle school. Our middle school math and science extended are into the 35s, 36s, okay, and that's not a good thing. And that's the next thing I think the board will probably take up this budget season, if I'm not mistaken. You know, at least we'll have a good discussion about it. Is to try to take a look at that math and those core classes in middle school right now are they're atrociously high. Okay, so that's something that I'm going to focus on. But there is a plan, there is a standard, and they're looking pretty good. Can they look better? Do I want to see everyone at 17? Yeah, I do. But
Okay. What is SCPS doing to provide trauma-informed training opportunities to staff, teachers, students, and parents as it pertains to ACEs and moving forward in resiliency?
Okay, so all right, so ACE for people, that's aversive childhood experiences. So I'm going to, because I would just speak in general terms and maybe ask Pam or who could maybe talk more specific about what we have done, okay? In trauma-informed care training, do you feel like you could touch upon that?
Certainly. Do we have a microphone? Here's a microphone right here. I don't need a mic. Principal teacher. Wendy Martin Johnson, she is in charge of student services. Unfortunately, she could not be here tonight. But they have done some information with their counselors. They have brought in their counselors, some of their social workers, et cetera, and done training. I know they're looking at other avenues to work with parents, et cetera, but they're training their staff first, obviously, to do that. And certainly we can get more complete information and provide that to you.
Yep, that person didn't leave their name, so I don't know if they wanted to raise their hand. Oh,
I'd say anything that we're going to get back to people on, we should put on the website. So we, share it with people that not just are here, but people who, didn't have the opportunity to come.
That was actually me, and I'm sorry, I actually didn't fill in my name. I'm Anita Lyons, and I've actually taught in Stafford County, Prince County Public Schools, and I think that that's actually a training. Not only do our school counselors and social workers need it, but we as teachers need that training as well. To see, like, when our students, I'm more on the secondary level, when our students come into the classroom, and they're coming in, putting their head down, or displaying different signs, we need to not only say, okay, this is, they're acting up. No, let's investigate the why and see why are our students doing this. We need more concentrated training in our PD days. When we have different time, we're coming in, maybe give us a 2-hour trauma-informed care training. So we have that top of mind thing to say, okay, Johnny's doing this or Sarah's doing this. This is what's happening. These targeted signs. I think in my years of teaching, I had maybe one trauma-informed care training, and I think that we need more of that.
Are you
Ma'am, do you
currently
want a
employed?
job?
Are you currently?
You
Wait
wanna
a
come
minute. Are
back
you
to
currently
Stafford?
employed? Wait. Are you Stafford County employed right now?
No, I'm actually in Northern Virginia now. I'm no longer with Stafford County.
Oh, well, we would like you back.
Well, and I'd like to just kind of add to that, because Dr. Kisner and I were in a meeting today, and Sarah as well, where we We learned that, so first of all, all of these things are really intermixed, right? You know, we're talking about our class sizes and the load that our teachers already have on them, and we're talking about needing more supports, right? We learned today that in Stafford County, we have one board-certified behavior analyst. One. So we need to add some, we need to really take a good look at our support services in our school, at what our counselors are currently doing, and what should they be doing. I would say we definitely could use some more BCBAs in our schools. And yeah, training, of course, all day long, but there's only so much that we can ask our teachers to do. So you guys need the support. And again, all of this ties back into funding. And so we really need to look at our priorities and where we're spending our money and make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck, because you know, our schools are great, but we've got we got a lot of work to do.
Okay. Next question. What is SCPS doing to address the variance of equity versus equality amongst our schools in the county? Review the data of ISS and DOSS resources allocated to certain schools. I don't know if I got those acronyms.
So I'm not sure. Dr. Kisner is probably going to take this one, but he has a lot of information that I've been asking for about that, the equity, and so he is looking into that and planning on bringing that to the board.
Okay, so all our decisions, all our actions need to be grounded in the notion of equity and excellence, okay? Because sometimes we get confused. We have a group of children that maybe been denied access before in a certain program, and then we celebrate because now they're there, but they're not being successful, okay? So I just want to make sure that we frame the conversation about equity, also have the word excellence in there, or success, okay? So we are in the early stages. So we have a committee, just so you know. I'm learning Stafford has a lot of committees. And they're learning from me that I'd rather just like bypass committees and do things. But we have committee structures. So committee, we have which is very important. This committee is very important. We have an equity and diversity, there's another part too. Opportunity Committee that actually has our first meeting at the end of October. And one of the things I'm going to be presenting to them, so as I already described, we have to be remarkably transparent. And what we don't have in in Stafford, which I had in the previous place I worked, was an equity dashboard. Just like you have on your car, so you could check your oil, how fast you're going, and so on and so on. So what we're doing is in the early stages of collecting data, breaking it down by the demographic subgroups that the state and federal government uses. So if you're familiar with those, you'll know which subgroups we're looking at. So the first thing we're taking a look at is a lot of questions about high school access questions. So who's in AP classes, who's in government school classes, who's in the advanced type programs. And the question, I think, was pertaining to, which I love the question, because it's true nationally, it's true statewide, and I would suspect highly it's true in Stafford too, that children of color, children from low socioeconomic backgrounds, children who speak English as a second language, children with disabilities, they are often children that are suspended more, referred for discipline procedures, which, so I believe the only behavior we could change is our own. Okay, this is my philosophy in life. So if we see a high percentage of children of the groups I mentioned not being successful in school, and they're being referred for discipline action, then going to the question about professional development, then we have to have very honest and intentional conversations among the adults about what are our beliefs about all children, and what supports do you need so you could better work with children who are different than you, okay? So that's the ongoing, it's not a hit and miss. I know sometimes, and there's people say, no, we got to do these trainings, and trainings are fine, but I don't want a one and done, okay? So we did the equity training, we did the trauma-informed care training, we did it, now we checked it off the list. So you're going to hear a lot, and people are ready. We had a great meeting Monday with we had 104 people, we had all the principals, a lot of central office administrators, and 50 teachers spend the morning together, talk about children who are wounded emotionally because of school practices, and children who are grouped, who are segregated, who are not given the opportunity in high expectation classes. And we spent a few hours reflecting on ourselves, because a lot of us, and I thought it was pretty powerful, some of my colleagues talked about experiences they had as a student where they were denied access to a class, or somebody gave a message to them that they can't do well. And so I love the question. To me, there's a lot of answers, but it's the ongoing actions. Words are so cheap, okay? It's the ongoing actions, and I'll just end it with this. Change happens when people see it. In other words, we all know smoking is bad. I hope everybody believes smoking is bad. And we've been hearing that for many, many years, decades. You may not change until your physician shows you an x-ray with spots on your lung that clearly states you continue, you die, and you die quickly. Okay? That's seeing it. So the data dashboard is going to help us say, it's like going to the doctor or looking at your car dashboard to take your temperature, your blood pressure as a school system. How are we really doing? And it will be rolled out officially after the first semester, so we could collect data, and then we're going to put it right on our website, present it to the school board at a televised meeting, and we're going to show how good, how bad, and how ugly. And I think that will help this entire community have a conversation of what do we want for our children.
I also wanted to add, thank you, Dr. Kisner. I also wanted to add, it's not only about equity, but it's also about bringing teachers into the fold that are from different cultures. One of the things that we noticed here in Stafford County, we don't have many. That's why we're recruiting you, okay? And different interests, and understand, because they understand the students. I know when I was growing up, it's very hard. You have to see yourself in the teacher, and it's not happening here. So we need more of that. And also the fact that teachers need to be sensitive and unbiased. And you grow up in a different area, and you have preconceived ideas, and it's hard leaving those at the door. But students know. They know when they're loved, and they know when they're cared for, and they know when you have full interest in them and their well-being. So that's something that we need to work on. Like Dr. Kisner said, one class and checking off the boxes is not sufficient. It's continued, it's wanting to change and making sure that we're doing best for all the students across the board, not just for some, but for all.
Right. Has Stafford County ever thought about a year-round program or uniforms for safety?
So I'd like to speak to the year-round. I think year-round school is a phenomenal idea, but as you heard, we have people who want to petition for us to go back to the old calendar. I'm not sure that Stafford County is ready for year-round, but I'm personally a huge fan of it because it prevents that 12 weeks of lost information for students. But so I'd be surprised if we can make it happen, but I'm not opposed to making it happen. And I don't have strong opinions about uniforms.
I don't have strong opinions about uniform either, but, dresses could be a little longer. This will be a second vote behind Dr. Chase. I came from a school system that was almost year-round. We had like 1 month off, and that was it. So, we finished high school earlier. We finished high school at 16. And right into college, so it's not a bad thing. Sometimes you don't even know it. Once you have it, once you're in the school system, that's why I'm not going to pronounce which race it is, but they have year-round, and when they come to the United States, they appear to be brighter than others. It's not that they're brighter, it's just that they're year-round school. But
Okay. In Japan, some elementary schools are preparing lunches for their schools. What kind of innovative and changes are Stafford County making to differentiate themselves in order to be the best district in Virginia?
I'll just touch that real quickly and then allow the board if they want to. So I talked about this during my interview, and I've spoken about this afterwards. So you're going to hear me say innovation and be creative and take risks. And I think we have amazing opportunities. So equity and equal are often quite confused, okay? So we have 17 elementary schools, we got 7 middle schools, I think, or 8 middle schools. See, we gained one since I've been here, and 5 high schools. And I guess what I'm saying is, like, what I would love to see happen is the school communities, okay? So the Hampton Oak administration and teachers and parents say, you know what, this is what we want to be known for. This is our identity, okay? We want to be a world culture school. We want to be a dual language school. We want to be a fine arts elementary school. The point being is, it's a buy-in, it's agreement, it's support, and then we have that model where all our schools are having that conversation. And it doesn't mean that 10 schools can't come up with the same identity they would like to have. Prince William County, because I visited, they have some schools that are exactly what I just defined. And when you look at satisfaction among their parents and staff, it's really high because they feel like I had input in this, and B, this is who we are, and we feel good about it. The last school system I left is exactly what I just described. Smaller, no question, but each of the elementary schools had its identity for innovation. So that may not completely answer your question, but I think one thing I know we're all proud of, this is a really, really good school system. But the other thing I often say is, let's not celebrate too loud or too long, okay? We could always be better the next day, and we have to be willing to be innovative and risk-taking. And the businesses and companies, Sears is one that we could talk about. Hopefully no one worked in Sears, but they were great many decades ago, and now they're filing bankruptcy, okay? As everybody else is innovating and changing, sometimes people forget to do that. They rest on their reputation. So I hope in our journey, and these things don't happen overnight, that we give the schools more permission to be different than the other schools that are in our school system.
I'll just kind of ride your coattails because we've had this conversation, and Dr. Kisner really caught me with this one. I love this idea. I was a product of Prince William County Schools before I became a Wolverine, and that's kind of what Prince William was known for. None of their schools really fit into the same mold, and I don't want to really allow Stafford to become that. Well, if this school has this, we need to be identical, because like Dr. Kisner said, they need to all have their own identities. They're all in very different locations with very different children, and they should all have their own identity. I went to Brentsville High School in Nokesville, Virginia, and that's where you went if you wanted to be really good at agriculture. So, just allowing our schools to develop into their own, and while also being equitable is, I love that, and I'm really eager to see where Dr. Kisner takes us on that journey.
So are you farming right now, Jamie? Ms. Decatur?
I have a garden in my backyard, and it has produced 3 tomatoes in the 3 seasons that I've had it.
And our next question, is there a list of underfunded programs? And if so, can we donate to those programs directly?
Who's the cash cow here?
Chris Fulmer, can you donate?
I'd say the biggest area is for the nutrition department. Cover fund costs for those that are not on our free and reduced program, but still struggle.
Yeah, so there's a lot of students, but we can put something on the website, I think, Madam Chair. If, it should be something there, but there are a lot of students, that's a good point,
For what?
that don't, if you want to donate to Stafford Powers, Stafford County, you might get $1 million check, who knows, right? Well, put it on the website.
And also, Stafford County Public Schools has an education foundation.
Yeah, Stafford, yes.
Which gives you another opportunity to donate and get all the tax benefits. And then they help, they work closely with the schools, of course, to identify areas that we could benefit as a school system.
We are looking for members for that, too.
That is true.
Board members with cash.
Let me add one other avenue that may seem to be overlooked. This will probably show a past PTO president bias. So a lot of what is needed in our schools is somewhat things that are funded, and I know you're going to laugh when you see this, box tops. If you don't have students, save them, put them in an envelope, take them to an elementary school. If that elementary school doesn't do it, believe me, there are a bunch that do. Some of those kinds of drives and things, one of the elementary schools that I work with a lot, I said, go over to a community that has no kids in it, that have more a senior population, and say to them, can you put out a box for box tops? Because, you probably use baggies and all the other stuff. And I will say that was a great partnership. That was a really easy thing to do. But I'll say probably one of the other areas when we talk about underfunded, and I agree with, certainly about nutrition, but it's also, if you are a parent, really one of the most important things that I think your school district needs is your time. We are a very busy community. Many of you travel north, south, all over the place. But a lot of it is time. Having served as a PTO president, volunteers were hard to find. I know there's many reading programs through local organizations and churches. That's really another way you can make a huge difference in the life. And it may be one child, it may be 2 children. But let me tell you, if you can turn on a light and help in those ways, money is important. And please, I'm going to be begging for it probably with my board members across the street. But let me also just kind of say to you, is there a time thing that you can give to your schools? And you have to talk to the principals and be fingerprinted. But let me tell you, that's another area I would just throw out, having served in a different capacity, begging for volunteers in the past.
Can I also say, eat more in Stafford County, not in Spotsylvania or Prince William. We get meal tax, so spend the money here. We'll get it.
And I'd just like to add that not only are there underfunded programs in our schools reach out and do a lot for the community, and not just this community, but people outside our community. I think you may see occasionally in the paper that, certain of our schools are collecting items for the hurricane victims or are victims of, different disasters throughout. So I think we have a very generous community, and it's a good reflection on the schools that our children want to help others. In that vein, I'm going to do a public service announcement for the Band Together Against Hunger. I don't know if any of you have been to that event. It's held at Mountain View High School, and I think it's the first Monday in November. Is that
Yes,
the
November
case?
5th.
And the rain date is the next Monday. It is an amazing opportunity to see all of our schools performing together, not in competition, but in a spirit of being united. We have each of our 5 high schools puts on an amazing show. We have the band and the color guard, and at the end of the performance, I don't know, maybe it lasts maybe an hour and a half. The bands are all out on the field at the same time, and they perform, and it really brings tears to my eyes. And when that's all over, the community sponsors who put literally thousands of dollars into this effort are called out, and they're recognized. But the admission fee for this event is some kind of non-perishable food. Bring a can of something or 2 cans, and our students collect thousands of pounds, actually tons of food, and feed thousands of people. This all goes to the Fredericksburg Area Food Bank. So sorry for the advertisement, but it is an amazing event, and I would encourage you, if you're able to go and bring your children. It's the high school students that are putting it on, but it is for everyone in the community. I always invite people that don't have children in our schools to come as well, because it's heartwarming, and it's quite a show.
Monday, November 5th.
Excellent program. And also, I'd also like to add Operation Warm Coats for Kids. We collect money to buy brand new coats for students in need in our division. And I don't know if Community Engagement Manager Sharice Taylor, if you are interested in helping and donating with that, because we're actually going to be distributing the coats to the children next Thursday, October 25th, and we definitely could use a little help with that. So if you could see me at the end, we definitely point you in the right direction. And moving on to the next question. As a current CGS parent, how can the program be justified for separate district teachers when one site has 13 students in the senior class? And part 2 of that question, how can a site with 80 CGS students offer 8 time slots for parent conferences?
Well, so I'm a current CGS parent and a past CGS parent.
I'm a past CGS parent.
Yeah. I don't quite, I think the issue that we sometimes have with the CGS program is students sometimes will leave the program because there are opportunities partway through that aren't there for the students. So they might start out in CGS and you might have 30 students, and then by the time they're seniors, you might have 13 students. And part of that may be because the high school wouldn't allow them to do band at the time that they wanted to. So they had to make a choice between CGS or band, or they had to make a choice between CGS or being on the track team. So sometimes it has to do with that. Sometimes it's the stress level. It's a lot of work. What was the second part of the question? 8 slots, parent-teacher conferences, only 8 slots. I would suggest that maybe we get back to them. Which school is that? Because there probably should be more than 8 time slots.
Didn't give us school.
Right.
All right. And the next question. We have an array of programs for our high-achieving students, AP, IB, et cetera. What are we doing to build career and vocational programs for non-college-bound students?
Okay. We do have at our high school programs a significant course offerings for CT, career technical education, that I've actually been in many of those classes, and students can take classes, but they could also receive industry certification, which is a higher level of qualification if they want to continue, which doesn't mean they can't doesn't mean they're not able to continue a 2 or 4 year college, but it opens up maybe for an employment in certain industries. The reality is that what we want to offer children, in my judgment, is I'm not a believer that we should decide a young person. I never thought I was going to be superintendent. Who thinks that at high school? Okay, I was going to play for New York Mets and tour with the Beatles. Both of them didn't happen. So what I'm really telling you is what I like about Stafford, different than other places I've worked, that most of the career technical education programs were in an off-site regional program. And so a lot of kids never took advantage of it because they did not want to leave their home high school. And in Stafford, we do offer at the high school and some at the middle school level, some career technical education classes. I guess what I'm really offering is I don't think those children should feel like they can't take AP and IB and advanced honor classes. It shouldn't be, in my judgment, an either or, okay? That children who are planning to go on to a 4-year university and study whatever, they should also take, I call it woodworking, I don't know, we probably have different terms now, or home ec, which is now family consumer science. So I guess I've been impressed, and I'm still at the learning stage, is that we actually really do have a lot of offerings in career technical education. But if there's specific classes that people are aware of that we're not offering, that we should consider, I would ask you to let us know.
Can I say something too? Ms. Young and I have both served on the Career Tech Advisory Committee, and I'd also like to say my CGS students also did CTE, and they got those certifications. So they did both. And so, yes, Dr. Kisner, you can do both in Stafford County. And I think Virginia now requires that you have to pass, right? The state of Virginia requires that you have to get some kind of certification before you can graduate.
One thing I just quickly, you go.
Sure. I was planning on going. So, yeah, Dr. Chase and I were both on the CTE. We're early board members, and Dr. Chase was the main advisory committee on the CTE, and we just flipped the script. I'm the advisory committee main person at this time. My kids, 4 of them, 3 of them were very, very high achievers, focus and all of that good stuff, CGS, but I believe that all children are important, and they could achieve the highest possible. I don't care if you're going to be a sweeper, you're going to be the best damn sweeper that you are with your sweeper certificate. I came from, the Netherlands, and that's how we were. Everything that you do, it doesn't matter what it is, it is respected. And what I feel here is that, if a kid decide that they don't want to go to college, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry for what? No, I don't want to go to college because I want to do something else. So we need, as parents and as a community, need to make sure that our students know that it's important, no matter if they decide to take a break or if they want to do mechanical work or whatever it is that they want to do, that is important at that time, and we need to support them. For example, we worked on, I think, and I'm not putting a plug here for Toyota, but Toyota gave us a scholarship, and right, Pam? And they also gave us a summer program for some of the kids of the high school to go and work in the summertime. So I'm planning on knocking on some doors and making sure that these businesses that we give our money to invest in our school and invest in our children, because I just think it's important. It's hand in hand, and we're working. That's why I'm working with the SEF, the Stafford Education Foundation. We want to grow that, and I'm hoping that the kids, I don't know how many hands and legs you have, but I need your help with that also. I want to mimic what Prince William has, because theirs working very, very well. Businesses are looking to spend money because they want tax write-offs. So we have large companies right here off of Garrisonville Road that we need to tap in. So that's my plan in the next couple of months. I'm just waiting that Dr. Kisner get his feet
Yeah.
wet.
Yeah.
And honeymoon is going to be over soon, just so you know.
Yeah.
If I could just say one
Yeah.
thing for you all from a broad perspective, about 2 years ago, we compared ourselves with our comparison divisions, which I believe there were 9. We were the highest in there on our CTE certifications, and it wasn't even close. That doesn't mean we can't do more, but when you hear a lot of school districts and a lot of complaints in the press that, oh, we need to get these programs, I believe that we have a good base of programs. That does not mean we can't be more. But I remember when I saw that chart, I was like, wow, that's really great that we are giving kids and young people these certifications to go in. For those of you who know about CT or don't, I can only speak more to one high school because I know about it, but you can go and get your hair done. You can get those things done. I know the Wildcat Salon, I think I'm right. Looking for other Mountain View parents or Star, thank you. But there are ways also that you can go and help our kids. Now, I would personally like to take my car, but I don't think that that's an option.
Okay. And last question. Stafford County is one of the top 20 richest counties in the U.S. Why do we not offer more free after-school programs and activities for our children, similar to Fairfax County Public Schools? Also, free tutoring by our teachers.
All right, well, teachers here, you want to answer that?
Go ahead and stand up and turn around. No. I will tell you, I had 2 kids go all the way through the system, and they're in college now, and then I have 2 in middle school now, 11, 12-year-old. And I'll tell you, the teachers, they really do a lot. They'll come in early. And this is across the board through at least the 3 schools that, my kids attended. They'll come in early. They'll stay late. Heck, I remember a couple of them even came over the house. In the basement, and they had a study party. It's not a bad party to have, when you're in high school, right? So yeah, they do a lot already, but there's a lot on our plate as a county. There's a lot on our plate, and there's a lot on the teacher's plate.
One thing I would share with you, we are definitely, based on what report you look at, one of the richest counties, not only in Virginia, but really nationally. But I would also encourage you, and this is just a fact, I'm not giving an opinion. If you go and look at what we spend to educate a child per year, there's 133 school systems in Virginia. We are in the lowest 20% of school divisions in Virginia, what's called a per-pupil expenditure. So you go to the Virginia Department of Education website, just call me, I'll just send you the report. You would not believe, based on 2 reports, how wealthy we are, and then what we're spending. And you know what? We may be a victim of our success, because people are saying, well, you're doing so well right now, why do you got to spend more? But I've just shared with you is that, I tell you I wasn't giving you my opinion, but I'll give you my opinion. Our per-pupil expenditure should be higher, what we're spending per child to educate. And I think that would answer a lot of the questions that people have here about salaries and programs and other things. But it's just a fact. You could go in the department, it's the education website, they list every school system, and they tell you what the per-pupil expenditure is. And I think you'll be surprised where Stafford ranks.
I just wanted to add that it's like who buzzes faster, right? I know, right? But being the one of the richest does not correlate directly with the revenue and the money that the Board of Supervisors give us for our schools. That needs to be kept into consideration. Fairfax, they raise their taxes and they put a school out. Probably, I don't know how often. Prince William puts a school out, a new school, almost every year. But again, when we get ready to do our budget, and we need you all to be there to help us advocate for more money. Raising taxes, maybe a penny or 2 would help. But if you don't like what your Board of Supervisors are doing, you know what to do.
And I just, though, also like to mention Spotsylvania has that mall, and they have Cosner's Corner, and the city of Fredericksburg has Central Park, and Fairfax County has Potomac Mills. And Stafford really doesn't have that revenue
A
stream.
quiet town center.
And
That's what we have. Did I hit a nerve? Sorry.
We got a strip mall.
Yeah, and so that's something I'd like to see our Board of Supervisors try to address. How can we bring money in so it isn't all coming from the homeowner's taxes? Because we have a lot of retirees who are on fixed incomes, and they're not in favor of having their property taxes raised. So,
And one thing to always remember, when we look at most of these figures that talk about wealth, that's wealth. Remember, we don't have a local income tax, as Dr. Chase was just saying. Because we are wealthy, that does not mean that we are taxed on that wealth. What we are taxed on for most of our base comes from property taxes for what people own in Stafford County. Again, alluding to our business taxes, and why probably several of us alluded to shop Stafford. Because you know what? Especially for those, and I'm sorry, Dwayne, those in the South, I know it's easier to go to Fredericksburg or to Spotsylvania just because that's where you use. But you know what? You're supporting their school system. And my family knows this, and even my kids tease me about it. We're down at Central Park. We can go into Target. I said, nope, we're going back up to 17 where I live. And I know that seems really minor. But you know what? If everybody were to continue to do that, because that's how we support ours. I have friends that are in the South, and they say, we do almost all our shopping in Spotsylvania and in Fredericksburg because it's closer. And I understand that. Please know, I go to the Wegmans every once in a while. But I'm just saying, I believe, and I can say this from a planning perspective, when many of those houses were built and the assumptions that were made by those that were in planning, they said, this house will generate this much income. I don't believe that ended up being the case because those homes did not bring their revenue. They're going to the grocery store, buying their clothes and all that. That's not being generated here. It is elsewhere. So for all of you who think about it, use the CVS, use the if we have it here in Stafford, use it. It's every little bit helps.
Sure, yeah, I'd just like to add, there are many of our teachers who do come in early and stay late to be able to help their students. And for the ones that don't, I don't think it's because they don't want to. It may be because they have other responsibilities or they have second jobs. You know, a lot of our teachers need to have second jobs to support themselves and to support their families. So, you know, if we could raise the salaries, perhaps, you know, they wouldn't have to work a second job and, you know, would have time, because I don't know any teacher in Stafford County does not care deeply about their students and their student success.
Any teacher, period.
Right. Well, I can only speak for the ones in Stafford County because I don't know.
Well,
I don't know any other ones.
I know
but-
the teachers.
Okay,
I know
let me finish, and you can go on. But I would like to say that I'm very happy that Dr. Kisner is with us, because he mentioned a couple times things he said during the interview. But something he said that impressed me very deeply was that he believes every student can succeed, and it's our job to make those resources available to every student, not just the gifted, not just the special needs, but across the board for every student. And I do think that's what he wants to do, and under his leadership, you know, I believe that we will move forward. We are a great school system, but as Dr. Kisner said, there's room to move forward, and there's always room to do better. And thank God for our teachers and our staff, our support staff, because the teachers couldn't teach without the bus drivers bringing the kids to school, the cafeteria feeding them, the people that keep our schools clean, the paras,
Don't forget the cross guard.
the administrators, the office help, everybody across the board. So we're good because of our staff, and we're very grateful. And
If I
Dr.
could-
Kisner,
sorry.
your charge is to
Move forward.
Yes.
If I could just add before we move on, I don't know that we touched on before and after school programs with that. We went like in a gigantic circle with that one, but I can't touch on before and after school programs. I was just going to ask that when we add the answers to the website, could we put a little bit in there about those? And
May I be the first to close out, Madam Chair, if you don't mind? I have two swimmers that are looking at a black line for the last couple hours, and I got to go pick them up. So first of all, this is a great crowd, and I'd like to thank the community here for showing up and coming. It's not easy. Everyone's busy. And, to Alan Hicks and Nicole Ox, or I knew I'd screw that up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us. It's been a real pleasure, and it's a very nice venue. There's a lot of things mentioned here tonight. Make sure you go online and take a look around. If you haven't done that, you're real busy, especially if you're a teacher, right? And we have jobs, right? Class size and funding and salaries for our educational professionals, that's real important. And a lot of the board members here told you that, there's two funding bodies, right? Don't let your state representative, right, Bryce Reeves and all those folks, don't let them get away with you not sending a nice little email to them saying, hey, what the heck's going on down in Richmond, right? Okay, so there's two funding bodies. It's state and local, and our local is your supervisors and, of course, us, right? So we don't fund, but we're a conduit for funding, right, of what we have. So, every penny on the tax dollar is about 1.4 million, and every 1% that we give our folks across is about 2.4 million. So even a 1% raise, when you hear about it, it's 2.4 million of new money, right? New money that we have to go fight hard for. And so we want you all to stay Stafford and keep and keep the schools. We need your help to keep the schools excellent, right? Make them better. So thanks. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks.
Okay, all right. Well, this concludes our listening tour. We want to thank the school board members and Dr. Kisner for being here tonight, as well as our cabinet members, our senior leadership here on the front row here, as well as Mr. Barry Suddeth from Transportation, Mr. Greg Martin in the back there with Safety and Security, and our communications team for setting this all up, and our media team over there, Advanced Media Solutions, for taping this. Thank you so much. It takes a team to make this happen.
And the aggravation.
I got another one.
Okay. Did we have any Spanish parents that had a
Sí,
question?
hay unos parientes español
Did
que
they-
habla español.
Las parientes que hablan en español tienen preguntas para mí
O mí.
o para el panel.
No.
¿Tienen preguntas ahí atrás? ¿Nadie? Ok, está bien.
Okay. Thank you all so much for joining us. I hope this event has been informative and helpful. Thank you and have a good evening. Be safe getting home. Thank you.